Captain Juno stood tall on the great platform of Veltrax Prime, surrounded by thousands of alien eyes. The sky was dark and heavy with clouds, but the lights from the alien city shone brightly. Juno wore Earth's diplomatic uniform, simple, white, and marked with a silver badge of peace. He came with no weapons, only words. The Veltrax High Council had invited him to speak about peace between their kind and humanity. But behind the bright smiles and loud applause, something felt wrong. A Veltrax guard standing close to the stage kept looking at Juno with narrowed eyes, his hand twitching near his pulse rifle. Still, Juno spoke with calm confidence. He talked about friendship, shared futures, and building trust. He told the crowd that Earth was ready to move forward, not with war, but with open hands. For a moment, there was silence. The crowd listened. Some seemed touched. Others remained cold. Then it happened. A single shot rang out. A red beam struck Juno in the chest. His body froze, then dropped to the ground. Screams echoed through the square. Guards rushed forward. The crowd panicked. But the killer, the guard, stood still, showing no emotion. He didn't run. He didn't hide. The High Council shouted that it was a tragic mistake, claiming the guard misread a signal. But everyone saw it. The aim was clean. The shot was planned. News of the killing spread across the stars within hours. Some species mourned. Others stayed quiet. But Earth said nothing. No message, no demand, just silence. The Veltrax felt confused, and then proud. In their minds, humanity's lack of response meant they were weak, afraid to fight. Veltrax media celebrated the event. One broadcaster even laughed on air, saying, "Humans talk peace because they cannot survive war." On Earth, things were different. The United Human Alliance held an emergency meeting. No yelling, no anger, only silent, sharp eyes. They watched the video of Juno's death again and again. He had been more than a diplomat. He was a symbol of Earth's future, trusted by many, loved by more. His death wasn't just murder, it was a message. A quiet order went out across Earth's colonies. Prepare for dark skies. At a small outpost near Saturn, a soldier named Reyna received a sealed file. She read it once, closed it, and began loading weapons. Across Mars, factories slowed their usual work and started crafting something different. Stronger armor, faster ships, weapons never tested in open space. Humanity didn't shout. Humanity remembered. Meanwhile, on Veltrax, the Council continued with their usual business. They blamed the human silence on fear. They believed Earth would beg for forgiveness, maybe even offer gifts to avoid war. But not everyone was so sure. One Veltrax officer, Commander Threx, had served in distant parts of the galaxy. He had seen things others ignored. He had watched small human crews survive black holes, escape impossible traps, and fight off larger fleets with only grit and fire. When he heard about Juno's death, he didn't celebrate. He warned the Council, "You do not understand what you've done." But they laughed. "They're soft," one council member said. "They talk too much. They won't act." Threx shook his head. He remembered a human pilot who once crashed onto a frozen moon. That pilot had crawled, broken and half-frozen, across 20 miles of snow just to send out a message before dying. The message said, "Mission complete." Threx had never forgotten it. Now he feared the humans would come. He didn't know how or when, but he felt it deep in his bones. Then came the first sign. A trade station on the edge of Veltrax territory suddenly went dark. No signal, no damage, just silence. A patrol was sent, but the station was empty. Not destroyed, cleared. Everything gone. The patrol found a single mark on the wall, a handprint, human, red with paint. Nothing else. The council called it a prank. Threx didn't believe that. Back on Earth, Reyna boarded a silent black ship called the Revenant. No logos, no ID. It was one of many now flying through deep space, moving without trace, heading toward Veltrax space. The humans had waited long enough. They didn't come with speeches this time. They came with a promise. You killed one of us. Now you'll see what we truly are. And the stars were watching. The galaxy waited. After the death of Captain Juno, everyone expected Earth to strike back. But weeks passed, and the humans said nothing. No warning, no anger, no warships. Just silence. The Veltrax High Council took this as a sign of victory. They told their people that humans were cowards, weak, easily broken. The death of Juno was just a small spark, and nothing came after it. They bark, but they don't bite, said Councillor Varn during a broadcast. The crowds laughed and clapped. The Veltrax felt safe, confident, but not everyone was laughing. Commander. Threx sat alone in his private quarters, watching the stars from his window. He had studied human history, not just the public stories, but the darker ones, the battles where humans had been pushed, cornered, or betrayed. And every time, they didn't surrender. They adapted, they endured. Then they struck, quietly, suddenly, without mercy. Threx had a cold feeling in his chest. He knew humans wouldn't forgive the death of a diplomat, especially one like Juno. That silence wasn't weakness, it was warning. Somewhere far from Veltrax space, a scout ship drifted near the shadow of a dying moon. Its name was Lurian 9, and it belonged to the neutral planet Yalari. The ship picked up strange signals, quiet pulses in the dark, like whispers in space. The crew traced the signals and found a wrecked station floating near an asteroid belt. The walls were torn open. The inside was scorched. No life signs, but no bodies either. Just one symbol painted on a steel wall, a circle with a single vertical line through it. The human symbol for zero mercy. The Yalari scouts sent a report to their homeworld. But before the message could reach its destination, the Lurian 9 vanished. Back on Veltrax Prime, the High Council dismissed these reports. Ghost stories, they said, space pirates, random events. But behind closed doors, they started to worry. More trade routes went quiet. A supply ship disappeared, near the edge of human territory. Colonies that once traded with Earth suddenly received no reply. Even the great communication network, used by hundreds of planets, began to glitch. Strange delays, blank messages, systems crashing without reason. Something was happening, something organized. On a desert moon near the neutral zone, a small outpost received a visitor. It was a tall, dark figure wrapped in a cloak, face hidden under a hood. He didn't speak much, only handed the officer a data chip and walked away. When the officer played the chip, he saw footage, raw and terrifying. Human ships in black steel moving in perfect silence. Elite soldiers in new armor built for speed and fear. Drones scanning alien settlements and disappearing without a trace. A voice spoke over the footage, calm and cold. You thought silence meant surrender. It meant calculation. The officer sent the footage to several planetary leaders. Some called it fake. Others panicked. A few began to prepare. Meanwhile, on Earth, the operation continued. Reyna and her team were now deep inside Veltrax space, hiding among the shadows. Their ship, the Revenant, used stolen codes to avoid detection. They weren't here to start a war. Not yet. Their job was to send a message, to let the Veltrax know the storm was coming. Quietly, they landed on a mining colony known as Terrene 4. It had over 10,000 Veltrax workers, no weapons, and only basic security. At exactly 2 Gauss AM local time, the lights went out across the colony. Systems failed. Doors locked. Alarms stayed silent. Then, loudspeakers played one simple message in a soft human voice. This is not an attack. This is a reminder. You are not safe. The Veltrax screamed and panicked, but no human soldiers entered. No one died. When power returned, they found a new sign on the colony's command center, a small human flag stabbed into the ground with Juno's silver badge resting beneath it. The message was clear. The humans were here. When news of the Terrene 4 incident reached the Council, they stopped laughing. Now they were scared. Ships were ordered to patrol every system. New weapons were rushed into production. But it was too late. Humanity had already moved. Across Veltrax borders, colonies began reporting shadow figures. Supply lines broke down. Civilian morale dropped. People whispered of ghost soldiers and revenge spirits. But it wasn't magic. It was precision. Human planning. Human patience. Commander Threx stood in the war chamber, watching maps full of red marks. This is not war, he told the Council. Not yet. This is a warning, and we are already losing. But Councillor Varn refused to listen. They wouldn't dare attack us directly, not in the open. Threx looked him in the eye. They don't have to. They already own the shadows. Far away, aboard the Revenant, Reyna received her next orders. 2 simple words appeared on her screen. Phase 2. She looked at her, team, and nodded. The time for silence was ending. Soon the Veltrax would face the truth, and they would regret everything. The Veltrax High Council could no longer hide their fear. Every night, new reports came in. Lost ships, missing colonies, outposts that stopped answering. But there were no explosions, no battles, no clear war. It was like the humans were everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Councillor Varn still refused to accept the truth. They are playing tricks, he said. Cowards with cloaking devices and empty threats. But deep down, even he was afraid to sleep. The silence had turned to dread, and the dread was about to explode. Far from Veltrax Prime, a large military base floated above a lava-covered planet called Farsis 9. It was one of the Veltrax's strongest outposts, full of warships, defense towers, and elite soldiers. No one believed it could be touched. But tonight, they were wrong. High above the planet, hidden in the black of space, the Revenant waited. Reyna stood at the front window of the ship, staring down at the base. Her voice was calm. "Begin," she said. All at once the stars seemed to move. Black ships, silent and fast, slid out of the shadows like knives. No engines roared, no alarms went off. The base had no warning. The first attack came in the form of lights. Blinding flashes knocked out every camera, radar, and sensor. Soldiers inside the base shouted and ran, but they couldn't see. They couldn't hear. Then came the real strike. Human drop teams landed in tight formation, moving like shadows. No gunfire, no wasted movement. They used stun weapons, EMP darts, and smoke bombs. In less than 15 minutes, the base was under human control. One of the captured Veltrax soldiers, shaking in fear, asked, "What do you want?" Reyna stood over him and replied, "Justice. You took one of ours. We're just getting started." Then, just as quickly as they came, the humans left, but they didn't leave the base as it was. They destroyed the weapons, burned the records, and left a single message across every screen. Juno's voice lives. Earth remembers. The news of the Farsis 9 strike hit the galaxy like a shockwave. It was no longer silent war. It was a message of power. Even species that feared Earth began to whisper again, but this time with respect. Some even sent quiet messages to Earth, offering support or asking for peace talks. The humans did not reply. The Veltrax High Council went into full panic. Emergency meetings, war declarations, military zones activated. But none of it helped. Earth was still in control of the shadows. And now, the humans had started attacking directly. Commander Threx watched the footage of the Farsis 9 attack over and over. He couldn't believe what he saw. "They took the base in minutes," he whispered. "No deaths, no mess, just precision." He stood up and slammed his fist on the table. "We are not fighting an enemy. We are fighting hunters, and we are the prey," Counselor Varn barked back. "We are still the stronger race. We have more ships, more soldiers. We will crush them." But Threx stared at him and said, "You killed one human, and now they are killing our fear, piece by piece. What will you do when they finally decide to stop holding back?" Elsewhere in space, Reyna received her next mission. This one was different. Not an attack, but a recovery. A small group of humans had been hiding inside Veltrax's space, scientists, workers, and diplomats who never got the chance to escape. One of them was Juno's brother. Reyna and her team landed on a small jungle moon called Drenith 5. The Veltrax had built a secret prison there. The place was surrounded by electric fences, towers, and guards, but none of that mattered. The humans were already inside before anyone noticed. Darts flew. Lights cut out. Within 5 minutes, all systems shut down. The prisoners were freed, confused, and weak. One of them, a thin man with dark eyes, looked at Reyna and asked, "Did Earth forget us?" Reyna smiled and said, "Never." That mission wasn't about strategy. It was about proof. Proof that humans never leave their own behind. And when the Veltrax tried to send a message about the prison break, they discovered something terrifying. Their own communication systems were now under human control. Every word they sent out was being watched. In less than a month, the Veltrax lost more than 12 bases. Not because they weren't strong, but because they didn't understand what humans really were. Not monsters, not saints, just dangerous. Quiet when patient, loud when pushed, and impossible to stop once truly angered. From orbit, Reyna looked at a burning Veltrax factory world. She didn't feel joy. She didn't feel revenge. She felt justice. "They still don't understand," her team member said. Reyna nodded. "They will." Back on Earth, the Human Alliance watched the reports. No celebration, just a new command. Phase 3, show them everything. And across the stars, the Veltrax finally asked the question they should have asked long ago. What have we done? The Veltrax High Council was breaking apart. The silence they once laughed at had become their nightmare. Bases destroyed, communication hijacked, people vanishing without a trace. They tried everything. New defenses, more patrols, stricter controls, but none of it worked. The humans weren't fighting with strength. They were fighting with fear, and they were winning. Commander Threx stood before the council again. His eyes were tired, his voice calm but sharp. "You still think this is a war of ships and guns. It's not. The humans are using something else, something we don't understand." Counselor Varn growled. "They bleed like anyone else. They can die like anyone else." Threx shook his head. "Then tell me why every time we strike, we hit nothing. Why every plan we make they already know. Why every step we take, they're already ahead of us." The council went silent. Threx continued, "This is not just about weapons. It's about their minds, their discipline, their will. We're not fighting soldiers. We're fighting ghosts." Far from Veltrax space, the Revenant floated quietly near a black nebula. Inside, Reyna studied the next phase. They had recovered Juno's brother and gathered intel from the destroyed bases. What they discovered was worse than expected. The Veltrax were building a weapon, not a laser, not a missile, but a thought weapon. A virus that could infect the Tau mind. They planned to use it to break the humans without firing a shot. But it was not ready yet, and now Earth knew about it. "We can't let it activate," Reyna said to her team. "If they finish it, They'll use it on our colonies, on our children. The mission was set. They would not just destroy the lab. They would reveal the truth to the galaxy. The lab was hidden on a dead moon called Kalu 7, surrounded by storms and magnetic fields. No one visited that place. That was the point. The Veltrax believed it was safe, but safety meant nothing to humans now. Reyna's team entered during a solar storm. Their ship cloaked, systems quiet, footsteps silent. Inside, the lab, strange machines hummed. Giant tubes held glowing data cores. Alien scientists worked nervously, unaware of the shadows closing in. In less than 4 minutes, the humans took control. No alarms were triggered, no guards alerted. It was surgical. Reyna walked to the main terminal and inserted a data drive. One by one, every secret in that lab was uploaded to Earth and broadcast across the stars. The galaxy was stunned. The Veltrax had told everyone that humans were dangerous beasts. But now the truth was out. It was the Veltrax who had tried to poison minds, to build a weapon that would erase free thought, to turn humans into puppets. And they would have done it if Juno's death hadn't awakened Earth's fury across hundreds of worlds. Governments began to break ties with the Veltrax. Some closed trade routes, others sent warnings. A few even offered humans safe passage. For the first time in years, Earth's name was spoken with respect and fear. Back on Veltrax Prime, riots began. Civilians saw the leaked footage. They screamed at their leaders. "You started this war!" they shouted. "You made the humans into monsters!" Councillor Varn tried to give a speech. "We did what we had to. They were a threat to our future." But no one listened anymore. Commander Threx watched quietly. He didn't smile. He knew what was coming next. "Now," he whispered to himself, "they will strike with fire." Elsewhere, on the Revenant, Reyna stood at the front, watching. The stars move. She had just received new orders. "Prepare for full exposure," the message read. "Let them see what we've become." She turned to her team. "The time for shadows is over. Now we show them the truth." "But what if they fear us more after this?" one of her soldiers asked. Reyna's voice was steady. "They already do. But fear is better than forgetting." They left Kalis 7 behind in flames, the lab reduced to ash. But its secrets lived on. In every corner of the galaxy, the Veltrax were no longer the victim. They were the villains. And Earth had just shown how dangerous it was when pushed too far. The humans never wanted war. They wanted peace. But when that peace was broken, they didn't cry. They didn't beg. They sharpened their minds. They prepared in silence. And when the moment came, they struck like lightning. Now the galaxy watched. And waited. Everyone knew the question wasn't if the humans would strike again. It was when, and what they would do when the chains were fully off. The galaxy was changing fast. Every race was now watching Earth, not just out of curiosity, but out of fear. News of the secret Veltrax mind weapon had spread to every system. Protests were rising on Veltrax colonies. Allies of the Veltrax were backing away, silent and nervous. No one wanted to be next. And in the center of all this chaos stood the humans. Quiet, controlled, deadly. On board the Revenant, Reyna received a new message from the Human Alliance. This one was different. Not an order, a warning. Veltrax leaders planning full assault. Target, Earth. She didn't flinch. She had been expecting this. "They're scared," she told her crew. "Scared people make big mistakes." The Veltrax were gathering every ship they had, thousands of war cruisers, dreadnoughts, fighter swarms. They thought if they crushed Earth now, they could still win. But they were wrong. Earth had been ready for years. Deep beneath Earth's surface, hidden bases began to wake. Systems powered on, weapons locked in. Commanders gave the green light. It was time for the shield to become the sword. But Earth didn't wait for the Veltrax to arrive. They struck first. While the Veltrax were busy building their invasion fleet, Earth released something unexpected, a swarm of AI drones. Thousands of small, smart, silent machines flew across space, undetectable. These weren't weapons in the normal sense. They didn't explode or shoot. They listened, they mapped, they infected. Within hours, the entire Veltrax communication system was compromised. Their fleet couldn't coordinate. Ships got lost. Orders didn't reach their targets. Their giant, powerful force was suddenly blind, and while they stumbled in confusion, Earth made its real move. Reyna and her strike teams landed on 3 major Veltrax shipyards. These were the factories building the warships, huge floating cities, full of engineers, soldiers, and defense systems. But Earth had studied every bolt, every hallway, every habit. In minutes, the teams spread like ghosts, sabotaging engines, overloading reactors, disabling shields. Explosions lit up the dark. Veltrax war production was stopped cold. The Veltrax Council, now desperate, tried to hide the truth. But they couldn't. Their people had seen the flames in the sky. Their workers refused to fight. Even some soldiers began to question the war. "We killed 1 human," they whispered, "and now they've broken everything we built." On the moon station, above Veltrax Prime, Commander Threx sat alone. He was tired, angry, and defeated. He had warned the Council. He had seen the danger. But no one listened. And now it was too late. He opened a private message. It was from Earth. The screen flickered to life. Reyna appeared, calm and clear. "You didn't just kill Juno," she said. "You woke up something ancient in us. A memory, a fire. We never wanted this war. But now you have it, and we will not stop until the galaxy remembers what happens when humans are pushed." The message ended. Threx sat still for a long time. Then he stood and walked to the command deck. "Prepare a direct link to the Council," he said. "What do we tell them?" his aide asked. Threx looked out at the burning shipyard. "We tell them we've already lost." Meanwhile, on the Revenant, Reyna watched her crew celebrate the success. But she didn't smile. "This isn't victory," she said. "Not yet." One of her soldiers asked, "Then what is it?" She looked at the stars, calm and cold. "It's a message, a final warning." Because she knew something the Veltrax still didn't understand. The real strength of Earth wasn't in weapons. It was in unity, in memory, in rage that slept until called. And now, that rage was fully awake. The galaxy would never forget. The stars were quiet again, but not peaceful. The war was not over, but something had changed. The Veltrax were broken. Their fleets were scattered. Their leaders divided. Their people ashamed. For the first time in living memory, the Veltrax High Council called for silence, not conquest. Earth had not destroyed them completely. It didn't need to. The damage was already done. The galaxy had seen everything, how one death had woken, the sleeping storm inside humanity. And now, no one dared to test them again. A final summit was called, one that would be broadcast across all known space. Every major species would attend. It was a gathering to discuss peace. But everyone knew it was more than that. It was Earth's moment. Inside the Central Galactic Station, thousands of ambassadors, soldiers, and civilians gathered. Even the Veltrax were there, silent and shamed. Eyes turned as the human delegation arrived, not with a giant army, but with only 10 people. 10 humans, dressed in dark, simple armor. And in the center was Reyna. She stepped onto the speaker's platform. The room went silent. Even the air seemed to freeze. Reyna looked at them, all species that had once laughed at Earth, that had once feared the humans were too weak, too emotional, too wild. Now they sat frozen in their seats. "You all know why I'm here," she said, her voice calm but powerful. "Not for war, not for revenge, but for truth." She held up a small data chip. "This," she said, "contains the story of Juno Callan, a young human captured and killed for no reason, no trial, no warning. You saw how Earth responded, not with begging, not with surrender, but with silence and action. We didn't scream, we didn't threaten, we prepared, and we answered." She looked toward the Veltrax section of the audience. "You thought killing one of us would break us, but you didn't understand. Every time one of us falls, we rise, stronger." She pressed a button, and a hologram appeared. It showed every step of the war. The sabotage, the mind weapon project, the drone strikes, the resistance of colonies. It was all laid out in full, undeniable proof. There was no way to twist it. "We are not monsters," Reyna continued. "But we are not weak. When pushed, we become something else, something the galaxy has forgotten." Her voice dropped lower, but sharper. "We are human." A long silence followed. No one moved. Then slowly, species after species began to rise from their seats, not in fear but in respect. Some lowered their heads, others saluted. Even the Veltrax representative, trembling, stood up. The message was clear. Earth had earned its place, not by dominating but by surviving, not by starting war, but by finishing it. Later, in a quiet room aboard the Revenant, Reyna sat with her team. The war was ending, but a new future was beginning. "Do you think they'll ever forget?" one of her soldiers asked. Reyna shook her head. "They might try, but memory is our weapon now. Every planet, every starport, every council chamber will remember what happened when one human was taken." "And what happens now?" another asked. Reyna stood and looked out into the stars. "Now," she said, "we watch, we protect, we wait." Because Earth had changed. No longer the outsider, no longer the ignored. Now, it was the silent shield of the galaxy, watching from the shadows, calm, ready, and if anyone ever forgot what humans could do, if they ever made the mistake of trying to harm Earth again, they would remember the story of the one who was killed, and the world that answered.